Yeah, I mean, it's like Dateline. Come on. Stephen Epstein is all over Dateline. Stephen, you didn't attend Charlie's trial. So you're not exactly up to speed with everything. It's like, dude. And I told that Dateline producer in the courtroom, I said, there's a lot of people here in this courtroom that are like, covering this trial extensively that you might want to consider for your show. And one of them that was not was Stephen Epstein. But anyway, I'm not going to rip on him because we are going to go into the Charlie arrest details. Thank you for hanging in there with me and going all over the map with a million different things. Okay, Stephen Epstein in relationship to the Adelsons or Markels, he's not. He's a true crime author that got interested in this case, and he's met them and interviewed them. He didn't know them like before or anything like that. So are we ready for this? It's only a little longer than 2 pages, but it's juicy. Yeah, Irene, I thought it also was a good read. I know this book is controversial and he's controversial, and I am a little bit annoyed that they had him on so much on Dateline. Yes, he did write this book on it, but he didn't attend Charlie's trial. So, anyway, I'm not going to rip on him. Yes, story time. This is like reading story time. So, we ready? It was at 2518 Whale Harbor Lane. Well aware that Charlie Adelson was a rabid gun enthusiast who had no reservation or compunction about taking human life, those responsible for the operation at his Fort Lauderdale home the next morning weren't about to take any chances. They assembled a well-trained, heavily armed battalion in full riot gear to take the newly indicted defendant into custody. Approximately 20 FBI agents and local police officers gathered a couple of blocks away just before 5 a.m. to receive their final instructions, the cover of darkness, an element of surprise, offering a tactical advantage they hoped would prevent a shootout and bloody scene. Gradually, they surrounded the home from all sides, sealing off the perimeter. A couple of agents even stationed aboard a boat behind the property to prevent any attempted watery escape. Though movement was detected through Charlie's windows, agents couldn't determine whether the darkened figure was a male or female. Officers positioned behind the rear fence were given the go-ahead to advance. But when they attempted to scale the fence, they were met with a most unwelcome surprise. It was lined at the top with razor wire, leading to some nasty cuts and the decision to retreat. Their initial plan foiled, the lead agent dialed Charlie on his cell phone to try to coax him to surrender peacefully. But no one answered. Floodlights were then directed against the front of the home, brightly illuminated the entire property and shining into the residence through the windows. An agent grabbed a bullhorn, demanding that Charlie come out with his hands held high.
Come on down! You're the next contestant on The Price is Right!
Several officers crouched in defensive positions throughout the front yard, their weapons aimed at the front door, the tension and anticipation reaching a crescendo, yet nothing happened. Storming the door with massive force was beginning to look like their only viable option despite its attendant risks. The lead agent tried calling Charlie one final time before resorting to that approach.
Hey guys.
Lo and behold, this time he answered and walked out the front door precisely as instructed. Rather than a man itching for confrontation or a bloody shootout, what officers observed emerging into the ultra-bright lights was a most amusing sight. Not only was Charlie unarmed, he was nearly naked, a pair of skimpy boxer shorts the only fabric covering his large frame. Shielding his eyes from the glaring light with his forearm, bewildered and confused, he asked, "Am I under arrest?" Officers quickly swarmed him, cuffing his hands behind his back and reading him his rights. They led him back inside to find some clothing and get him dressed. But the arresting officers spotted through their peripheral vision as they walked their prize through his living space, revealed just how lucky they were to nab him without a full-scale battle. Rifles and guns were displayed everywhere, mostly near windows and doors, one even resting on a tripod pointed out a window. The entire operation could have easily devolved into a very different and deadly scene. Charlie appeared dazed and disoriented as the officers led him through the house, incoherent gibberish his only audible sounds, likely because he was under the influence of marijuana or some other narcotic. Finally, fully clothed and ready for prime time, the handcuffed arrestee was marched back outside, flanked by officers who'd likely remember this particular perp walk for years. As they approached a squad car, placed Charlie in the back seat, one of the agents standing nearby was soaking in the spectacle with particular intense interest. Here he comes, Pat Sanford. Had waited nearly 8 years for this very occasion, gladly making the 7-hour drive from Tally with the freshly issued indictment in hand to witness Charlie's arrest with his own 2 eyes. His hard work and that of dozens of federal agents and TPD investigators had finally paid off. For him, the moment was akin to winning the Super Bowl and the World Series all at once. Within minutes, the police car containing the perceived mastermind behind Dan Markel's vicious slaying was on its way to Broward County Jail, the same facility where Sigfredo Garcia, Luis Rivera, and Katherine Magbanua had all passed through during each one's years-long march to justice.
A Fort Lauderdale dentist is charged in connection with the 2014 murder of his brother-in-law, who was a professor at Florida State University.
By 9 a.m., news of Charlie Adelson's arrest was reverberating all across the internet, as was the mugshot snapped while he was being processed at the jail. In the photo, his curly brown hair was so long and disheveled, flying wildly in every direction. It wasn't even fully captured in the square frame. His green eyes were bloodshot and glassy, face devoid of expression, beard unkept, lips pressed tightly together. Hardly the image the 45-year-old millionaire bachelor or his proud parents and kid sister would have selected to be featured in the Miami Herald or on the TV news later that day. Fully 2,834 days since the brutal, cold-blooded execution of his ex-brother-in-law, the maestro was finally behind bars, his life a Ferrari-driving, steroid-ingesting, playboy periodontist seemingly gone for good. Isn't that good? Feel-good story of the year. I mean, you gotta admit, that's juicy. No, the way he's describing it, of like, when Charlie comes out and what he says, it's almost like, did he see some body cam video? He did interview people that were on the scene for that arrest, for that chapter. I remember he said that. I know, it's juicy, right?
Hello, this is a prepaid collect call from
Charlie. Like if someone's burglarizing your property and you're in fear for your life, you can shoot them. This wasn't a burglary. You know, this were semi-automatic rifles and SWAT team helpers. It was so stupid. They could have just, if they would just knocked on my door, I would have come right out. No, I mean, I could have easily been shot. I could have easily thought I was catching a burglar. Meanwhile, they thought I was coming at them. Just misunderstanding, you know? How many of these guys, if they think they have a burglar in their backyard, they get to come out, you know, armed and ready?
Because if you look at the time, it's clear that